In the second part of my talk today, we're going to have a look at how to pray for healing. You might think that miracles only happened in Bible times, but nowhere in the Bible do we read that they should ever stop. Quite the contrary. In his Great Commission to his disciples, before he went back into heaven, Jesus said that the disciples were to go into all the world and make more disciples. That even means the Isle of Man. And what were they to be able to do? Well, in Mark 16, towards the end of verse 18, it says they will be able to place their hands on the sick and they will be healed. Nothing has changed. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. One of the attributes of God is that he's unchangeable. We may change, we may try to mould him into our way of thinking, but really, we need to bring our thinking into line with his word, the Bible. We can claim hold of his promises, like, I am the Lord who heals you. This morning, I was trying to practice what I preach, and I was asking God what he wanted to say to me. And I felt that he was saying, tell them, I am the Lord who heals. So I thought that was confirmation that I was on the right lines with this talk this morning. Another verse from the Bible, another promise, is by his stripes we are healed. Now these words are from Isaiah 53, which was written hundreds of years before Jesus was tortured and put on the cross. Today, we tend to pray as a last resort and just hope for the best, when really we should pray first and believe that God will answer. In Matthew 8, verse 16, we read, he healed all the sick. He never turned anyone away. So why do we not see so many miracles today? Well, firstly, it might be because we are sinful human beings. We're not perfect like Jesus was. And he knew his Father so well. He even said, I and the Father are one. So he knew his Father's will. And he didn't doubt his willingness to answer his prayers. Another reason may be that we're too independent today. We rely on ourselves to sort things out. Today, we're very fortunate because God also works through doctors and nurses and advances in medical science, and we're very glad of the work that they're doing at the moment. But in remote regions of the world where they're not so blessed as we are, and they don't have anything like a health service, there are reports of all sorts of miracles happening in Christian communities. They've even seen the dead raised. In these countries, all they have is a simple faith in a great God, a Father who loves them. But this is just what God requires. He only wants us to have a simple, childlike faith. Another reason may be that we don't really expect miracles. In Matthew 8, verses 5 to 13, we read about the Roman centurion who approached Jesus. The key point here is faith. God rewards faith. I'm going to look at that reading now.
When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home, paralyzed and in terrible suffering. Jesus said to him, I will go and heal him. The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. Just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was astonished and said to those following him, I tell you the truth, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. Then Jesus said to the centurion, Go, it will be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed that very hour.
Firstly, we see Jesus' willingness to go as soon as he heard of the problem. It was the centurion who stopped him. Having authority in his job, he recognised Jesus' ultimate authority. He only wanted Jesus to speak the word, and he knew that his servant would be healed. His faith amazed Jesus. "I haven't seen faith like this in all of Israel," he said. "Go home. Because you have believed, it has happened." And the servant was healed that same hour. It's often hard to see with the eyes of faith God answering our prayers when circumstances seem to be against us. We need the assurance of God's willingness to heal. Earlier, in chapter 8 of Matthew, we read about the man with leprosy coming to Jesus. We're going to read that now.
When he came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said. "Be clean." Immediately, he was cured of his leprosy.
The man with leprosy came to Jesus with doubts. Perhaps he was hoping for the best. He said, "If you are willing." Jesus' response was to remove that doubt. "I am willing," he said. "Be healed." And his healing was instant. Today, we may not always see Jesus healing instantly. Sometimes our healing is gradual, and we need to keep trusting and thanking him for it. That's when it gets hard. But remember, Jesus is just as willing to heal today as he was in Bible times. As a family and a church, we've seen some instant healings and some that we've had to fight for in faith. Of course, we'd love to see more. And we also must remember that the ultimate healing for a Christian is going to be with Jesus. As long as we've asked for his forgiveness and we're in a right relationship with him, then we're sure of our place in heaven, where we'll be in his presence forever. No pain, no sickness, no death. For the Christian, this is wonderful. It's only those who are left behind who feel the sadness. But we must remember that Jesus is still in the business of performing miracles today. And if we need a healing touch, then he's just as willing if we come to him.